Hello all, welcome to our channel. Here I am going to present Indian art and culture, which is a required syllabus for your UPSC, APFC, EO and AO exams. As you all know, Indian art and culture seems to be very monotonous and you seem to lose interest if you are reading it for a very long time. So, to make it interesting and to help you all to remember the facts and facets of art and culture of India, we have made the codes very colorful so that you can remember the images and you can answer your questions in the exams. So I am Shilpa Nagaraju and I'll be presenting you the Indian art and culture part of your UPSC, APFC, EO and AO exams. So about me, I have 6 years experience online and offline teaching. I have completed my masters in public administration and pursuing PhD. I've given UPSC CSE interview and qualified UGC NET in public administration. Also, I have six years experience in government sector. Coming to our art and culture part, if you see the syllabus, we have classified the art and culture into three parts. As you see in the PPT here, the visual arts, which consists of architecture, sculpture, pottery, paintings. We'll be dealing about each aspect of this in our coming chapters. The second one is performing arts, that is music, dance, puppetry, dramatics. And the other aspects of art and culture are included in the third vertical. So, why do we have to learn about art and culture? Is the first question when you encounter syllabus about this in your UPSC, APFC exams. You are all going to become the officers wherein you will be in touch with the general public in your day to day administration. And this art and culture is a very sensitive issue as you're dealing with the people directly. So, culture is the way of life, and art is how you present the culture in your life. So it's a very sensitive aspect, and you should know the brief about the art and culture of our land, and that's why they have included art and culture in the syllabus. Moving ahead, let's understand what is the difference between architecture and sculpture. If you see in the slide, I have two different pictures here, wherein the first one is the Sanchi Stupa and the second picture is a Nataraja. The Sanchi Stupa is an example of architecture, while the Nataraja is an example of sculpture. If you observe these two images, you will understand the point of differences between these two. One is the size and scope. The Sanchi Stupa is a big and a very huge structure, while the sculpture of Nataraja is very small when compared to the size of this Sanchi Stupa. The scope of Sanchi Stupa is mainly for the worshipping purpose of a religious community. Of course, the Nataraja is also used for worship, but the scope is limited. There's also a difference in the material used. As you can see, there are huge materials used in constructing a Sanchi Stupa. But here in the sculpture, you see a single element or single material or minimalistic materials used in making the sculpture. There is also a point of difference in the principles used in making or constructing the architecture and the sculpture. You should also know the sculptures are also independent and part of this architecture. As you see in the temples and also in the Sanchi Stupa, for example, you have many sculptures carved around the architecture of the Sanchi Stupa. So these are the points of differences you should understand when you read about architecture and sculpture. The first one being the size and scope, the second one being the material used, and the third one, the principle. Indian architecture has been classified into three ages, wherein we will learn about different kingdoms contributing to the architecture of the land. We widely divide it into ancient India, which comprises of Harappan art, Mauryan art, post-Mauryan art, Gupta age art, and South Indian art. In the medieval India, you have this Delhi Sultanate, Mughal art. In the modern India, you have two different styles, that is Indo-Gothic style and the Neo-Roman style. In the ancient India, we will learn about the IVC culture, the contributions of Ashoka and his kingdom to the art and architecture. Post Ashokan period, that is the post Mauryan art. Guptan age art, which is called the Golden Age art. South Indian art comprising of the contributions of kingdoms of South India, that is the Vijayanagara, the Cholas, the Cheras, the Pandyas. In the medieval India, you have the Delhi Sultanate and the Mughal art. You see here the influence of Persian and Islamic culture in the architecture. In the modern India, of course, with the advent of the Europeans to Indian mainland, you see the influence of Gothics and Roman style in the Indian architecture. So here you can link your knowledge of history to art and culture so that you can link with your history and art and culture and remember the points for your examination. Let's start with ancient India. If anyone recalls historical facts about ancient India, we will start with the Indus Valley Civilization. From our primary schools to the preparation of UPSC, we have been hearing a lot and learning a lot about this Indus Valley Civilization. So, this is very, very important, and many questions have been asked in the previous year for the UPSC examination. UPSC conducts various examinations, and this Indus Valley Civilization has been reflected in many questions of the examinations of UPSC. So let's start with ancient India, and of course, we begin with the Indus Valley Civilization. Now, what is the time period of this Indus Valley Civilization? It is widely between 2600 BCE to 1700 BCE. So, it is a urban civilization, as we all know. We see here the development of architecture, sculpture, pottery, jewelry, planning and engineering skills, houses and drainages, planned network of roads, dance and music, and also religion. If you see in the map of this Indus Valley civilization, you see the civilization mainly concentrated in the western part of India, from the northern extent to the western extent of India is completely covered by this Indus Valley civilization. So it is not only in India, but it spread through Iran, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and also the northwestern part of Indian subcontinent. So kindly remember the time frame, that is 2600 BCE to 1700 BCE. It was mainly an urban civilization, and it saw the development of many aspects of our art and culture, which we will be seeing in our next slides. So here in the map, if you observe, The places of Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, which is in Pakistan of today, was once a part of Indian subcontinent. The Harappan art mainly originated on the banks of river Indus. Indus is a very huge river and it flows from the Himalayas to through India, Pakistan, and it goes to the Arabian Sea. So this Harappan art originated on the banks of river Indus. The origins of this art is traced back to the second half of the third millennium BCE, before Common Era. It is mostly found in the northwestern and western India. So, two finest and earliest examples of urban civic planning is seen in these two cities, Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, which is situated in the northwestern and western India. As I already told you in the previous slide, this is an urban civilization. Please remember that it is not a rural civilization or a tribal civilization, but it is an urban civilization. So these two cities, that is Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, are one of the finest and earliest example of the urban civic planning in the history of the humankind. So let us see the important sites of IVC. If you see here, there are so many places like Harappa, Kalibangan, Ganveriwala, and Mohenjo-daro, Kotdiji, Chanudaro, Dolavira, Lothal, Surkotada, etc. So we will see about some of the important sites of this Indus Valley civilization. Firstly, being Harappa. Harappa is in Pakistan and is on the banks of river Ravi, which is also a part of the Indus Valley civilization, and this river Ravi is part of this Indus river system. You find here two rows of six granaries with big platform, which means agriculture was in practice in this area, and they used to store whatever they grew in their granaries. So agriculture was in practice, and the practice of storing whatever they grew for their purposes and business purposes is evident and is seen in this Harappa. You also find mother goddess figure, which indicates that there was a religious practice in this city, and they used to worship mother goddess, which means women were given prominence. A sculpture of dog chasing a deer in bronze metal. So here you understand two things which can be evident. A sculpture of dog chasing a deer, that is, they used to have or tame dog in their households, and it was chasing a deer. So you also see deer in and around the surroundings of Harappa. So the sculpture was made in bronze metal. So they knew the art of metallurgy, how to make this bronze metal. They knew how to make sculptures. You also find mirror there. So it is evident they knew the art of making sculptures, they knew the art of making mirrors. Copper scale was there, which shows trade was in practice. So to summarize, Harappa is in today's Pakistan. It is on the banks of river Ravi. Ravi river is a part of Indus river system. We find here two rows of six granaries with big platform, which indicates the existence of agriculture and also trade being practiced in this region. Mother goddess's figure is also found in this site, which indicates or shows that there was religious practice and women were given higher positions. They were used to sculpting, and we see a sculpture of dog chasing a deer in bronze metal, so they were knowing the art of metallurgy. There is also evidence of mirror, so they knew how to make mirror. Copper scales were there, so that it is evident trade was carried forward in Harappa. Here I have given a picture of mother goddesses in this slide. Next place we should learn about is Mohenjo-daro. It is in present day Pakistan. It is also on river bank of Indus. So if you see here, Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, most of these places are situated on the banks of some or the other river. Why? Because it was earlier times, if you see any civilization, it was usually on the river banks because of the availability of water in abundance. They need not have to go for places to search water. So the civilizations of Indus Valley, or be it the later Aryan civilization, or if you see the Mahajanapadas and the next kingdoms coming up, you see the capitals being situated on the river banks. So coming back to Mohenjo-daro, you find here the Great Bath. The first image here shows the Great Bath. It was used for ritual bathing. The surprise here is there was no cracks or leaks found in this Great Bath. Shows how they used to plan and construct any architecture in those times. There's a bronze statue of the dancing girl, the second image here. The citadel is the upper part of the town, the great granary where they used to store whatever they cultivated. A sculpture of a bearded priest, which shows again an evidence of a religious ceremony being practiced in this civilization. Pashupati Shiva's seal, also evidencing or pointing towards the practice of religious practices and cult in these places. So Mohenjo-daro again in Pakistan on the banks of river Indus. You have a great bath here, which might show that there was ritual bathing, and it has amazingly no cracks or leaks till now. A bronze statue of the dancing girl is seen in Mohenjo-daro, also indicates that they knew metallurgy and dance was practiced or known to the people of Mohenjo-daro. The great granary, of course, shows storage was in place and they used to cultivate different crops. A sculpture of a bearded priest is evident about the religious practices. Pashupati seal again pointing towards the religious practices. Next place is Mehergarh, again in Pakistan on the banks of river Indus. So it is very easy to remember on which river these places are. It is a all the rivers mostly are part of river Indus. Be it Ravi, it is part of river Indus. So most of the cities like Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, Mehergarh all lie on the banks of river Indus or its part rivers. So it is found in Pakistan. You have found two important evidence here in Mehergarh: copper tools and pottery. Dholavira, it is in Gujarat. We have found unique water harnessing system in Dholavira. Dams and embankments, giant water reservoir, 10 large site signs like an advertising board, etc. So in Dholavira, trade was being practiced, and you have found unique water harnessing system, giant water reservoirs, etc. here, because if even today this place of Gujarat in the Dholavira place in Gujarat has this droughts during summer. So to save water during summers, they used to have this conservation practices for water. So that's how you find water harnessing systems and reservoirs, dams and embankments in this region of Dholavira. We also see large sized signs like an advertising board back then, because it was a melting pot for many cultures to come here and have practiced in this place. So that's why we have big sized boards and all, which is like advertising boards, so that business takes place or trade takes place in this place. Rakhi Ghadi, the next place, is in Haryana, and it is the largest site in India for the Indus Valley Civilization. Here too, we have found granary, drains, terracotta bricks, etc. The next site is Ropar. It is in Punjab, again on the banks of river Sutlej, a part of river Indus system. Here we are finding copper axes, dog buried with human oval pit burials. So it is evident with the copper axe that agriculture was in practice, and there was timber practices in this region. Dog buried with human oval pit burials means, but the burial practices or the belief in birth after death or life after death is believed in this culture, is an evident from this dog buried with human oval pit burials. Next, we have this Balathal and Kalibangan. It is in Rajasthan. Kalibangan means fire altar. We have found here the bones of camel, toy factory, decorated bricks, bangle factory, etc. The other site we find here is Surka Toda. It's in Gujarat. And here we have found the first actual remains of horse bones. Next place is Banwali. It's in Haryana, banks of river Saraswati, which is now dried up. You might have heard about the project on finding out the ancestry or the tracing of this river Saraswati from the present government. It's an ambitious project wherein they want to find the evidence of Saraswati river flowing through the regions which was mentioned in the Vedas and uh, uh, other literature evidence of our ancient India. In Banavali, we have found the evidence of lapis lazuli. It's kind of a gem precious stone. Barley grains, etc. means agriculture was practiced, and we find barley here grown. It is only city with radial streets. In other cities of Indus Valley civilization, you find perpendicular streets, but in Banavali, it is the only city where of Indus Valley civilization where we find the radial streets. The next city is Alamgirpur. It is in Uttar Pradesh on the banks of river Yamuna. We find here the impression of a cloth on a trough. Ceramic items are also found. So here we can understand that block printing or cloth making were evident here, and ceramic items show that pottery was in fashion, and they used to trade these ceramic items everywhere. It is the easternmost site of IVC. So you can see it is the easternmost means Uttar Pradesh is the easternmost site. Until Iran, we had the distribution of this Indus Valley civilization. Next is Lothal. Lothal is called the Manchester of Indus Valley civilization. It is in Gujarat, and it's a very important site of naval trade. Then we have fire halter being found in Lothal, and also rice husk being found here. So from these cities and evidences, we can understand that agriculture was in practice, trade was in practice, pottery was in practice, metallurgy was known to the people of Indus Valley civilization. They knew how to conserve the water during the summer times, and they also knew how to store the grains, and for the construction they used terracotta bricks, that is burnt bricks here, for their houses and any other construction. They believed life after death, so that's why they had buried dog with human oval pit burials. We also find great bath and all, and Kali Bangan, may you have this fire altar, which is evident in showing how religious practices were there during these times. We also find the evidence of many animals like camel, dog, deer in and around the Indus Valley civilization. We see sculpture activities and toy factories, bangle factories in this region. If they ask a question like whether horse was seen or tamed during this place, we can say yes, because in Toda we find the first actual remains of horse bones. Barley grains were cultivated. We have the evidence of using lapis lazuli, a precious stone. Usually, the sites of Indus Valley Civilization have perpendicular roads or streets, but we have here in Banavali the streets being radial. The easternmost site of Indus Valley Civilization is in Uttar Pradesh, that is Alamgirpur, and it spreads to Afghanistan and also till the westernmost Iran. Lothal is called the Manchester of Indus Valley Civilization. It was a port city, and trade used to happen more in this site. It's in Gujarat, and we have seen rice husk here mainly, maybe because it was a trading center. We could have had rice from other places coming to this place for trade or other purposes. So most of these sites, as we see in the map here, it is in the north and northwestern parts of India. The time frame being 2600 before common era to 1700 before common era. So the Indus River and its systems are mainly contributing to the civilization aspect of this IVC. So now coming to the Harappan architecture, if we see in the image, the towns were in rectangular grid pattern. And please remember, the Harappan architecture is one of the finest among its contemporaries and one of the first urban site of the history of mankind. The roads here ran in north, south, and east west direction, and they cut each other at right angles. That's why I told you it was in perpendicular uh, angles. But in Banavali, you have the city with a radial street. There are three types of buildings in this urban civilization. One being the dwelling houses for the common public, public buildings for public purposes, being holded by many offices and temples or other sites. Public baths like the Great Bath in Mohenjo-daro we have here for religious purposes or ceremonial activities. They used burnt mud bricks, and it was of standardized dimensions. They did not make bricks with random dimensions, but they had certain standardized dimensions, and they used to burn these bricks for their architectural purposes. The houses here never open to the main roads. It shows how the private life was protected from the public life. That means houses never ever open to the main roads, and they had maintained their privacy. And each house had drainages within them, and they were connected to the common drainage. So if you see here, very important aspects of the architecture of Harappa, which are seen in almost all the cities of Harappan civilization. The towns being rectangular, grid patterned planning. The roads were in perpendicular angles. Three types of buildings are seen: dwelling houses for the common public, for the people, public buildings, and public baths. They use standard dimensions for making the burnt mud bricks used for the architectural purposes. They had the private life not uh, very closed, like they never opened the houses to the main roads. Every houses had drainages, and they were connected to the main drainages. The city was divided into two parts here. One is citadel and the lower town. The citadel is in the western part, and it was the uh, raised part of the town where you found the construction of larger buildings like the Great Bath, or being the temples or the granaries. In the lower part, you find the houses for the working classes or the common people. So please remember that the architecture of Harappan was divided into two parts. One is the upraised citadel. It was usually quite higher than the lower town, and it had a main public buildings. Lower part was mainly for the working class. Harappan architecture was very, very advanced of its times. It was a urban civilization, well planned cities, and each house had a drainage system. And they really had advanced drainage systems. The drains were covered loosely. Why were they covered loosely? Because if there was a clog, there were men appointed to remove the clog every now and then, and the flow should be maintained smooth. It had cesspits so that you need not have to break down all the way in the drainage and create mess for the public. But it had cesspits which can be just opened, and we can clean the area. So you can see here in the images how well planned were the drainage system of this Harappa architecture. So now let's move on to sculpture part. We see in the sculpture part the seals. They were mostly square or triangular, rectangular, and circular seals found in this civilization. So you can see the geometry was in practice. They knew the geometrical shapes, like you see the seals in triangular, rectangular, and circular pattern. So it's very, very evident that geometry was known to this people. For making the seals, they used a material called steatite, but they also were known with metallurgy, as we see in the sculptures, while they use the bronze and the copper, etc. So for making seals too, they used different metals like copper, fanes, agate, terracotta. Seals are seen in the sculpture of this civilization. Why were these seals made? Mainly for the education purposes. Means like they used to carve some alphabets or numbers on these seals to educate the people. Or you can use it for religion purposes, like because in the seals we see the Pashupati Shiva, mother goddesses pictures, so that it may be also used for religious purposes. Or you can also say it was used as coins or exchange materials for trade purposes in this civilization. So we are in a belief that these seals were mainly used for education, religion, and also for trade purposes. Moving on with seals, we have the inscriptions in the pictographic script. Animals' impressions were also present in the seals. The pictographic script means they used to uh, paint or imprint many animals or trees or men in these seals, so that they used to convey something from these seals. It's kind of a communication mode. They're saying something, or it's indicating something in this seals. The common animal motifs which we can see in the seals are tiger, unicorn, humped bull, rhinoceros, elephant, buffalo, bison, ibex, crocodile, etc. So it clearly shows what the fauna was in that region. No evidence of cow was found, but yes, horse was found. But you cannot say that in the seals you have the evidence of horse. But in one place in Harappan civilization, that is uh, that is here I've shown here, Surka Todada. Here you have the evidence of horse bones. You have rice husk evidence in Lothal. So this showed the religious practices, fauna of the region, and the language they used for communication. And you also see like which animal was tamed, which is not tamed in this seals. So there was no evidence of cow found in the seals. They were extensively used for trade. So this is about Harappan sculpture, mainly the seals. So they were in different geometrical shapes, which makes us believe that they knew about the geometry of mathematics, and they implemented in making this seals. The materials used for making seals are steatite, copper, fanes, agate, terracotta, etc. They used to use these seals for educational purposes, religious purposes, and also for trade purposes. They reflected the common man's culture, fauna, flora, and the languages or the signs they used in this civilization. How were these bronze figures made in the Harappan civilization? So they used to make it through lost wax technique, which is shown in the image 1. They used to have the wax poured in the dummy structure, and then they used to mold it, leave it to cool down, and then remove the extra parts and get the main sculpture. The dancing girl of Mohenjo-daro, the bronze bull of Kalibangan, etc., were examples of this bronze figure sculptures of Harappa. The terracotta fire baked clay was used to make different sculptures by pinching method. See, if you see here in the image, they're pinching from the inside and outside to make different shapes of the sculptures. They are found in Gujarat and Kalibangan. So what kind of sculptures they used to make? Animal figures, miniature carts, toys, wheels, etc. were made from this terracotta. Now coming to the Harappan sculptures, we next see pottery. If we see pottery, they are classified into two kinds. One is plain pottery, the other one is painted pottery. They are usually red and black color and they are painted. You have this perforated pottery with holes for fermentation of alcohol. So you can understand that alcohol was in the social practice and they used to ferment alcohol for their own usage or for social ceremonies. They were used to make household decorative straining liquor, etc. So these pottery was mainly of two types. We saw here in UP Alamgirpur we have the evidence of ceramics. So in the Harappan sculpture, the pottery was of two kind. One is the plain, the other one is the painted one. So usually two colors were used, that is red and black. There was also kind of perforated pottery mainly for the fermentation of alcohol. So why this pottery was used? Mainly for the household purposes, or they were using for decorative purposes, or to ferment this alcohol too. They were using this potteries. Next is about the ornaments. If we see the bearded priest or the dancing girl, you can notice some ornaments on these sculptures. And of course, we should know more about uh, the way of life of these people, and ornaments were one of them. They were well fashioned, and both men and women wore ornaments, and these ornaments were not from gold, were not made of gold like today, like 22 carat or 18 carat or 14 carat, but they were using gemstones, like we learned about the lapis lazuli. So they used to use these kind of stones, like baked clay or the bones or the gemstones, precious metals, for making their ornaments. So we also saw the bangle factory was evident in Kalibangan. We have this large scale ornament or bead making or toy factories or jewel making factories in many places. Large scale factories were found in two places. One is Chanodaro of Rajasthan and Lothal of Gujarat. Please remember, Lothal was a naval city, a port city, and you find a lot of advertisement like signboards here too, and it was a mainly trade city of this Indus Valley civilization. So in the image you can see some of the ornaments the men and women wore in Harappan culture. And coming to the fabric, they used to have wool and cotton fabric. Why? We should know that summer was very harsh in these places. Very hot place was this Indus Valley Civilization sites. So they used cotton clothes during the summers, and the winters were very very harsh in these places, very cold places. So that's why they used to have woolen clothes. So according to the climate, during the winters they had this woolen clothes, and during the summer when it was hot, they used to have or wear this cotton clothes. They were too much fashion conscious. If you see here with the bearded priest, he is using a turban like structure, and look at his beard. The beard was very fashionable way. And even if you see his hairdo, it's very fashionable. And even the cloth, he's wearing an armlet. The cloth is also having some kind of embroidery, and it was very fashionably worn. So from this we can infer that this Harappan civilization was much much advanced for its ages and its contemporaries, being in the time format of 2600 BCE to 1700 BCE. It is an urban civilization, and we learned architecture, mainly different sites of Indus Valley civilization have evidence of sculptures. We have the evidence of granaries, potteries, jewelries, how they planned their cities, how they engineered the architecture, houses, construction, drainages, planned network of roads, dance and music, and also religion in these places. So mainly it is concentrated on the north and northwestern parts of India. You should know the exact location of this, and the main river on which the civilization is located is River Indus. I have given you a brief of important sites, and also told you about the architecture, which you need to revise a lot and learn properly about them, because in the questions you should be able to answer those questions from the lessons we have learned. So I've given you summary of Indus Valley civilization to start with. So in the next classes, we'll see a series of videos wherein I'll be covering the art and culture part for your APFC examination. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.